Hello, hello. What's up? Welcome to the live stream. Yeah, I have some videos. I figured I want to watch them, so why not live stream it? Why not watch it together with you guys? So, yeah, let's get started. Let's check out some videos. Let's check out some videos.
I like to call them adult.
Okay, so there's this video that I wanted to watch. It's going to talk about Snow White, so let's check it out together.
Pretenders.
The president who did the most selfless thing that anybody's done since George Washington.
And I agree with Quentin Tarantino. George Clooney is not a movie star.
We're here to discuss Snow White, so what do you want me to say?
Because they replaced the dwarves with CGI abominations, pretending like Rachel Ziegler is the first of them all when she looks like Lord Farquaad in the film.
James Bond has always been gay. I don't know why you can't see it.
They're obviously recruiting for the next Bond. I am available. Well, when Disney executives signed off a big-budget remake of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, they probably thought it was a very safe bet for a company in dire need of a hit. A time-honoured fairy tale beloved by millions, which spans generations, borders and creeds. What could possibly go wrong? Well, it turned out just about everything. Rachel Zegler, who stars as Snow White, condemned Prince Charming as weird and a stalker, adding that she hates the original. Nice start. Leaked photos from a set revealed that the Seven Dwarfs had been sensationally axed, replaced by multiracial, gender non-specific, magical humans, after Peter Dinklage said it was backwards to cast real dwarves as dwarves, even though he's made a whole career out of being a real dwarf who's played dwarves in movies and made millions doing it. The usual suspects raced to defend this bold and progressive gesture, but that particular tale ended with a shock twist.
I think you should live in the 1930s, actually, Piers, because that's where you belong, really, listening to what you were just saying then. Also, I'm going to quote Warwick Davis, because he said he finds it patronising when people are offended on his behalf. And you've just spent a 5-minute monologue being offended on his behalf. And I think that's ridiculous.
Well, let me bring in Dylan, because Dylan is also offended, and he happens to be a dwarf actor. Yeah, and he was offended on his own behalf. So it turned out I was right. Disney responded to the growing controversy by delaying the movie for a year and replacing the magical humans with what looked like CGI garden gnomes. They featured prominently in the first trailer, which dropped over the summer. Broken records. More than 1 million people have disliked it on YouTube, making it one of the most hated previews in cinematic history. The cherished fairy tale has become a grim morality tale for meddling Hollywood hacks. Audiences watch movies to escape this kind of hectoring, virtue signalling, the insanity of the modern world, not have it thrown in ladles down their throats. We're here to debate all this and lots more. Two of YouTube's most outspoken and popular commentators, Gary Beekler, who's aka Nerdrotic, and Will Jordan, aka The Critical Drinker. And here in the studio, uncensored contributor Esther Krakow and the occasional comedian James Barr, fresh from what he tells me was a very successful trip to the Edinburgh Festival. I'll see if there's any evidence for that later. But welcome to you all. How are you, James? You missed me?
Hello.
Did I miss you, Piers? Not really. And this whole Snow White thing is just performative outrage. It is...
Actually, you're right. Do you know what? We're going to start the new autumn season, if you like, of this, or the fall, if you're watching in America, with a point of immediate agreement between me and James Barr.
Right.
That's exactly what this is. It is performative bullshit.
No, it's performative outrage.
But it's by Disney and by Hollywood.
On your
right?
part.
Really? Why?
Yes, absolutely. Because this is a movie that was made in 1937 and is being remade in 2024. And you sit here moaning about the differences between those two movies, like 1937 were the glory days.
What?
Well, what are you talking about? Why
what
are
are
you
you-
offended by this movie? Why do you think people are
Because
not
they replaced the dwarves with CGI abominations. They are pretending like Rachel Ziegler is the first of them all when she looks like Lord Farquaad in the film. Somehow Gal
That is
Gadot,
so
who's
rude, Esther.
easily one of the top 10 most attractive women on the planet, is some evil, ugly stepmother, which she is not. I don't know how she burst out laughing.
Yeah, none
saying,
of it
who's
works.
the first of them
right?
all,
None
and
of it
looking
is
at
actually
Rachel.
the truth.
Yeah.
Let's bring in.
It's nonsense.
Let's bring in our two YouTube experts, because Critical Drinker, your YouTube video on the trailer has now been viewed nearly 2.5 million times, and you said the new dwarfs look is nightmare fuel. Can you explain that for us, please?
Yeah, so what they've obviously tried to do is retain the artistic aesthetic of the cartoon from the 1930s, but transpose it into a live-action movie, and it just looks horrific. It's so out of place. And when you see them dancing next to Rachel Zegler, who's an actual human actor, it just looks awful. They don't match up. They're deep into the uncanny valley. It is the worst possible
Have you not
choice they
seen
could have
Who
made. It
Framed
would have been
Roger Rabbit?
so much. It would be so much easier if they just used actual dwarf actors. I don't know why they haven't done that.
Why is no one offended about the new Lord of the Rings show on Amazon, where they have actors, non-dwarf actors playing dwarfs? Why are we not talking about that? Why is no one offended about that? Why are we just picking on Disney?
Well, I am now you mentioned it.
Yeah,
You should be.
There's room for, there's
Yeah,
equal room
we
for
could have got
outrage.
them in.
But
as
there
well.
isn't, is there? You're just firing
I'm offended about the whole
outrage
show,
at Snow
personally,
White
but-
because they're trying to do something different.
Hey man, you want to talk to me about Rings of Power? I will talk your ear off for hours.
Let's
but like
go.
we're here to discuss Snow White. So what do you want me to say?
Yeah, no, exactly. Let's
thing at a
bring
time.
in. I want to bring in Jolly, because what this is really about is the fact that the people who are most angry about this are not people like me who were saying, well, why the hell are they doing this? It's such crap. It was actual dwarf actors who rely on movies like this, which literally are about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. They rely on that for really significant income. If you're a dwarf actor and you land a part in one of these movies, you make a lot of money. And yet suddenly it's been taken away from you. That's what incenses me on their behalf.
Yeah, this is where political correctness paints itself into a corner every single time. You find yourself with very strange bedfellows in this. And it's not just the actors, it's Disney fans. Disney fans are offended by Rachel Zegler's comments disrespecting the movie that made Disney. And this is why there is 1 million dislikes on this trailer. And it's a culmination of creative bankruptcy. If this movie just existed on its own, it probably wouldn't be that much of a controversy. But if you add a singular Peter Dinklage interview that cost dwarf actors their jobs, and Zegler out there popping off and fanning the flames, along with everything Disney's done over the last 6 years, you have Snow White.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the point.
But
And
this is
James,
outrage.
here's my point. James. If you had a gay-themed movie, right, and it had potentially parts for 6 great gay characters, right? Say there was a book and it had 6 great gay characters in it. And there were lots of gay actors who would love to play those roles, right? And suddenly it was decided that that could not happen, that actually no gay actors would be allowed to play any of those roles. You would be on here leading the charge of outrage that gay actors were being deprived work when it was literally in their wheelhouse. And that's the argument which I don't think you're quite computing.
No, and I agree with you. I would be somewhat outraged, but I think there's something deeper going on here in that we're talking about stereotypes. I'm normally offended if a gay person misses out on a gay role, if a straight person is playing a camp, overtly gay stereotype.
Right, so why
That
are you
I
not
find
upset for the
offensive.
dwarf
Because I
actors?
think what they're trying to do here is make it more inclusive. Plus, also remember,
not inclusive,
the
it's a robot.
original.
It's like-
they're
it's
trying
like
to.
excluding
They're
dwarf
trying
actors.
to
They are
remove
That's the opposite of
stereotypes.
They're
inclusion.
literally
This is
excluding
why are we
dwarves.
pretending that Hollywood is a fair place for actors?
It's not about
why
that.
Are
But
we
the
sat
thing
here?
is, they didn't even. Hold on.
The
They
world
replaced
isn't
them
a
with
fair place.
cartoons.
They were
Exactly.
cartoons in the original film.
This is a thing where, yes, no one's saying that it should be fair. But it's funny that the companies or the people that are demanding it to be fair, they're not outraged that it's not fair. We have people that say, "Oh, why aren't movies have clear representation?" Like The Mermaid, Little Mermaid. They constantly say, "Oh, representation. Why shouldn't like this or that?" Okay, fine. So now you have something that okay. Why didn't you just cast actual dwarves? It would. This is the funny thing. If you did, it would actually have saved them a lot more money. A lot more money. This is the problem with Hollywood nowadays, where it's overinflated budgets. You cast 6 people that a storyline, which is weird. 6 I don't know, regular sized people to do a weird ass storyline. Well, you did that. You filmed that already. Got backlash for it. Scrapped that part. Now you filmed 6 CGI dwarves. All that costs money. This is one of the things why that movie is failing, because such an overinflated budget. It's like, what do you? They literally a budget of maybe 200, 300 million. They have to make like maybe 800 million to 600 to 800 million to break even. I guarantee you, if they stick to it correctly, you could have knocked off what 50, maybe 100 million, maybe. It's like that's the thing where your stupid mistakes, your idea of like, oh, let me try to be inclusive, but are you being inclusive? No, you're not. That bit them in the ass. Insane.
But they have a human actress. So they have a human actress dancing next to 6
But
green
how far do we
dummies.
go with this faux outrage? Are we going to say that actual, like in the movie Pets, all
by
pets
letting
need to be
actors
actual
act.
animals?
Because you are
we going to
people
say
like
that
you. Hold
Yoda
on.
needs to be played
it's
by...
people like you that would be outraged that if an actor is not gay, you shouldn't play a gay role, when actors are literally paid to act. So how about we just let actors act? And if you're going to cast human beings as human roles, then you shouldn't replace them with CGI abominations and say,
I mean,
oh, by
literally,
the way, this is
if a dwarf actor...
I don't know why you keep saying I don't know why you keep saying outrage.
It's a point.
Abomination.
It actually is an
There
abomination.
are so many CGI movies, and there are so many people that have played dwarves that have been they've used CGI to do that, and no one's outraged. You're just outraged because Disney are trying to make the world a better place, and you want to live in 1937.
Nobody at Disney's making the world a better place, man. And I don't know why you keep using the word outrage. No one's outraged about this movie. People are laughing at it because it's a joke. It is a culmination of everything bad about modern movie making. You've got a movie called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that doesn't have dwarves in it. You've got the fairest of them all, who's put up against Gal Gadot, and somehow Gal Gadot is jealous of Rachel Zegler. And you've got a story about the search for true love that's no longer about true love.
It's about power.
What even is this movie?
Exactly.
It's a hollow, vacuous joke.
And I can add
that
one
everyone
more.
is
If I'll let
laughing at.
Nadrotic do this, because there's a leaked scene that was shown at the recent D23 reveals that the modern empowered Snow White won't even allow domestic labour being carried out by herself. Instead, she orders the dwarves to tidy up themselves, even when they've had a hard day down the mine.
It's their house.
I mean, Nadrotic, isn't this taking the whole virtue signalling stuff to a ridiculous degree?
Absolutely. If you want to remake the movie, just remake the movie in live action, note for note. It would probably be much better. But it's so obvious now because of the blight of intersectionality that's spread throughout our entire society that we can't have a woman holding a broom. Not that Rachel Zegler would know what to do with a broom other than fly on it, but I mean, that's what it is, and it's predictable, and it's what Drinker just said. It's nobody's outraged. It's mockery.
And we all know,
confuse
the
outrage.
moment, we all know, I haven't seen it yet, but I would lay even money. The moment Prince Charming moves in for the kiss while she's asleep, he gets arrested.
Yeah, exactly. Immediately.
Right, I mean,
He
it has to
hasn't
be.
given
Immediately.
consent.
Arrested and taken off to Harvey Weinstein's prison.
The original story is problematic. Why is everyone ignoring that?
How is it
problematic?
Why should a woman walk into seven blokes' house, right? 7 dwarfs' house, and clean it for them? It's their house. I don't care how long they've been working. Do the cleaning
Didn't do
yourself.
that. Why should-
I'm fully with
they
that.
First of all,
save
they're
her
letting
life
her
at that
stay
point?
there.
They've
That's
been down a
amazing.
mine
Thank you.
all day. Why isn't she down the mine?
Well, they shouldn't be, because
Well,
mine
but hold on.
shouldn't
What
exist
about
anymore.
gratitude and being a decent person? They're letting her stay
Yes.
there for free.
And by the way, how dare you stigmatise cleaning as a job?
I'm
For
not.
only
I'm just
women,
saying
yeah.
that I think it's weird that you're
a lot
all
of cleaners
saying.
watching this show thinking, "Wow, really? You're saying that it's beneath a
I
woman
actually
to
haven't.
clean?"
No, I'm saying that
Are you?
everyone should clean, especially
Are
the
you?
person that owns the house.
Are you saying it's demeaning for a woman to clean a house?
Piers, that's
James,
not what I said.
I'm letting you know this
Wow.
now.
That is
If
not
I
what I
ever let
said.
you
Don't
live
seem
in
to
my
be
house
implying
for
it.
free, you are cleaning.
And just to make matters even
just
worse,
letting you know this.
critical drinking, we then had Rachel Zegler, who'd already been gobbing off left, right, and centre, causing endless problems. She then shared the trailer on social media and added Free Palestine, despite the fact that her co-star, Gal Gadot, is Israeli. So you can imagine what that's done. That's just poured kerosene all over the place.
Does she even know
Yeah, the
where
promotional
Palestine
tour
is?
for this movie is going to be wild, man.
Yeah.
Is still crushing it.
Right, and none of them went down this stupid road, right? In other words, when
No.
Disney just does what we want Disney to do, which is make great movies. I think Disney's a great company, historically a fantastic company, and it's done some great stuff this summer. Just do what you're good at. You don't need to do this stuff. If you just brought out a movie with Snow White and dwarf actors, everyone would have gone, great. That's the movie we want to see.
It wouldn't have been a problem.
No.
It wouldn't have been a problem.
But I
No,
think
Disney helps fan the flames because they're so risk averse and they're so afraid of looking bad to one part of the audience. They don't give a crap about the majority of the audience who are just normal people who want to go and be entertained and escape.
Exactly.
They are so
I
worried
can
about their,
guarantee-
I think this is the thing where that one small audience is the louder of the two. General audience, they don't care. Fine, if it's a shitty movie, I'm not gonna watch it. I'll walk away. I'm not interested. Whatever. While if it's doesn't fall in line with the louder group, they are going to pick it. They're going to scream. They're going to say all these things. It makes it seem bigger than a bigger problem than it is. So I think that's what's happening a lot right now, where the louder of the two, whether they're not the majority, but they're the louder ones, is making things harder.
own people.
Yeah, it'll be a bomb. I can guarantee it.
Yes.
I want to shift to something else, which is we're going to play a setup quote for this. A Venice Film Festival taking place this week. One of the big movies premiere there is called Queer, starring Daniel Craig. Very annoyed on your behalf, James, you didn't get the nod for that. Don't see why Daniel Craig, a straight guy, got the role when you're out there.
He is a lot hotter than me.
I'm talking
though,
about
to be fair.
a stereotypical job made in someone's name, Queer. He plays a lonely middle-aged gay character obsessed with a much younger gay man in 1940s Mexico. The reviews have been brilliant. Apparently, Craig is fantastic, even though he's a straight guy, playing a gay guy. There we go.
Some straight men can be great. It's a shame you're not.
But the contentious point is this. At the press conference yesterday, the press wanted to know the answer to the question whether Bond could ever be gay. Let's watch.
Do you think there could be a gay James Bond?
Guys, let's be adult in the room for a second. There is no way around the fact that nobody would ever know James Bond desires. Period. Having said that,
Sorry? We don't know James Bond desires. He's the single straightest guy in the history of mankind. There's
really.
never been any suggestion by Ian Fleming, the author, or by the Broccoli family or anybody else that he was anything or is anything other than a 100% red-blooded straight guy.
Is anyone really a 100% red-blooded straight
Yes,
man?
you're
How do you
talking
know
about-
that for
I am.
sure?
What the hell? What is that supposed to be? Like, seriously?
How do we know you don't go into
Because I look at
incognito
you and
mode?
feel zero urges.
But I'm only one gay. You know, there's a lot of different gay people out there. One of them might take your fancy. Maybe you're on Google having a little flutter in some bisexual pornography,
You know
Piers,
what? It-
and that would be absolutely
The
fine.
point is-
we don't know what Daniel Craig.
We do
what
know
Bond
James
or
Bond.
Daniel
Have you
Craig
seen his wife?
desire. We
It's
don't know.
categorically impossible.
You can have
for
a
him to
wife
be gay.
and still fancy
Have you
other
seen
people.
her?
It's very normal
Impossible.
to have.
It's categorically impossible that
Maybe
he
in
sleeps
London.
every night next to that woman and is
Hollywood.
somehow.
Let me bring in Drossi.
Absolutely.
It's interesting. I mean, surely the obvious answer is no. Obviously, no. Bond can't be gay, right?
No, Bond.
This is a thing where I'm not part of this whole. I need to see an actor that looks like me for me to be happy. I am perfectly fine, and I'm actually I like it that have James Bond a straight white man. I don't give a shit. I'm fine with that. I'm not crying. Oh, he needs to be an Asian guy. No, just cool ass action scenes. That's it. Cool ass action scenes. I miss the gadget thing. I really do. I miss the gadgets. Because I always thought that was cool. But yeah, just really good action scenes. I'm tired of this wanting things to be a woman, wanting things to be gay. It's like, seriously.
Bond can't be gay, and unfortunately nowadays Bond can't be Bond. Any kind of masculinity is considered toxic masculinity. Yeah. And I mean, it's arguable with Daniel Craig, but I would say this is just the access media again trying to get headlines of this. Bond can't be gay, and I would just say go ahead and make it. If you think, if you feel that strongly about it,
seen as toxic masculinity. Can you just explain that?
Oh yeah.
That's an interesting thing to say, and I don't believe that that's true.
Far away, Nedra, because I can definitely help you there. Because in the last movie, he was basically a massive drip.
I would use a stronger word, but massive drip we can use. He was walking around being subservient, and then decided to do the noble sacrifice, although he was perfectly healthy and could have run 100 yards to the right, walked into a missile to die for toxic masculinity. And that's why the Bond films have gone down.
He died for the rest of your sins.
And how many women did he actually seduce? Literally seduce?
I plan to commit many more.
No. He can't. He's not allowed critical drinking. He's not allowed to seduce women.
No,
because of Me Too and Time's Up. Because James Bond can't seduce women anymore.
I think it's dangerous to suggest that you're only a man if you're seducing women. There's a lot more going on.
I don't think that's the suggestion, but Bond is a very particular kind of man. He is a ladies' man, and he is not allowed to. Not played by a drag queen, put it that way.
These queens. This James Bond has always been gay. I don't know why you can't see it.
Oh, God.
You see, this is the trouble, isn't it?
It's categorically impossible.
Yeah.
To act opposite Halle Berry.
But more importantly, Esther, would you ever watch a Bond movie if he was turned out something to be
no,
gay?
because that's not anyone who's read the books knows that James Bond is I'm sorry, he is the ultimate man. He's smooth, he's charismatic, he's a ladies' man, he's very intelligent, he's very strong. He's
so
a quintessential
dangerous to
man.
say the ultimate man is a ladies' man.
You know what's interesting to me?
He's a heterosexual man.
It's fine.
You're allowed to be a ladies' man. It's allowed.
Let's put it this way, right? Let's put it this way, James.
Because by the way, you know what's interesting to me?
Why does it matter that he?
This is a thing where that's ridiculous. One of the things that made Bond who he was is being suave, strong, straight. It's like those are the things that made him like James Bond really amazing.
Hang on. I'm going to bring in critical drinker here.
He's trying to save the country.
What's really interesting is Daniel Craig in Queer the movie plays this lonely middle-aged gay guy who apparently runs around screwing everything that moves, right? So he's a man's man. He's a guy's guy, right? But the moment you call James Bond, who is the great serial seducer, a ladies' man, James Bond, enraged. But if a gay guy in a movie about a gay guy runs around having lots of sex with lots of gay guys, that's fine.
It's very
I'm not enraged.
That's
I'm enraged by you suggesting that James Bond is only masculine because he's having sex with loads of women.
That's part of it.
That's one small part of it.
He kills people.
He
kills the bad guys. He has sex with lots of women. He drinks. He drinks
awful.
Yeah,
shaken.
And he's a character,
not stirred.
I mean, that's also a bit of a rainbow flag.
Let me bring in critical drinker.
Audience, okay?
Critical drinker. I mean, I think we have neutered Bond to the extent where it would not surprise me if he came out in the next movie.
Pretty much, yeah. And the result is he's not a character that people aspire to anymore. He's not an interesting character. He's just generic action hero who's not even particularly good at it. Daniel Craig never seemed particularly invested in playing Bond. And he always seemed reluctant to do it. He always seemed like he resented the aspects of Bond's personality that made him who he was. And so I'm not surprised that he's happy to go along with this. I mean, ultimately, it was the director of that movie rather than Daniel Craig himself who was answering the question about Bond being queer. But he was happy to just shut up about it, I suppose.
Let me give you the checklist for Bond, because they're obviously recruiting for the next Bond. I am available, right? And the checklist should be very straightforward, right? He's got to be a red-blooded heterosexual bloke who likes having sex with a lot of women, doesn't like being held in a committed relationship. He's open about that. He smokes nice cigars, probably Monte Cristos. He likes to drink bourbon, or he likes to drink, you know, his vodka martinis, whatever it is. He likes to drive fast cars, Aston Martins. He likes to do daredevil things on motorbikes and helicopters and other things like that.
Hangs out with people with drag queen names.
Right? And he likes to kill the bad guys to save the good people from extinction.
So in the interview, Barbara Broccoli's going to sit down and go,
that sort of thing doesn't play.
Wait,
that sort of thing is not allowed in modern.
That's the thing where growing up as a 90s kid, 90s, 80s kids, I would say this. The only thing I'm truly sexist in is my action movies. That's it. I'm not saying that there aren't good, female action movies, Alien, the Terminator, not necessarily female action movie, but with good female action characters, Old Guard, Kill Bill, there's plenty. But in general, seriously, I just like, badass men doing badass shit. Like in those action movies, I miss the old school action movies because it's very formulaic, but it's just, why change up a good thing?
It's what Daniel Craig took him in the last movie. It's to someone who basically starts crying every 5 minutes, right? Is not allowed to seduce women, right? And has to sit there.
It's so dangerous to sit here.
He can't smoke because it's bad for everyone's health.
I guarantee what will happen. Yes, it is bad for everyone's health. And it's so dangerous to sit here with millions of people watching this, Piers, and say that to be a man, you have to shag women, smoke cigars.
I didn't say that.
That's what you're suggesting.
Yeah, but it's fun, though.
I didn't say that. I said it is. No, I said to be James Bond, you have to.
Why are we...
That is the character that Ian Fleming created.
See, that attitude, it's dangerous to want to shag women and smoke cigars. What are you talking about? That's awesome.
He's not going to be shagging many women if he keeps crying. I'll say that much.
If you don't do that stuff, have you ever truly lived?
This is a thing where there's a danger where we are promoting and pushing a lot of people. I don't know I'm not saying that we're making people, but it's like, it seems like we are promoting or wanting a lot of people to either be gay or turn into women. I'm seeing that more. I'm not saying that, okay, we're changing people into it, but it's just we're trying to promote it, and we're trying to get people into those spaces. I don't know. I just think it's weird that, like, for a supposed population that's very small, it's it's trying to be so ingrained into our culture. Either gay or part of the alphabet people or trans. It's like, seriously, why?
Spy worth their salt would shag whoever they needed to get information, no? Isn't that how being
so what, now James
works?
Bond has to
So yeah, he can sleep with whoever he wants. It doesn't matter. Like, he doesn't need to be a ladies' man.
But the point is, he's not allowed to. Because people like you...
The character does need to be a ladies' man, though.
Of course he does.
The thing is,
honestly, I want James Bond to have sex with
will look
By the way, did you ever see a
James
Bond girl
and they will-
complaining? Did you ever see a Bond girl complain about the way you treated her?
All I'm saying is maybe James Bond wants to take a gold finger. Okay?
I can say this as a woman.
All right,
so
can we
as
move
long
on?
as it's
I'm just,
revealed
I
that
heard
James Bond has slept with a man, absolutely
You've
not.
been at the Edinburgh Festival too long,
There's
Sunshine.
no redeeming the
Let's get things back on the straight and narrow. George Clooney. So let me start with you here, Nedrilic. George Clooney at the same Venice Film Festival suddenly decided he would speak for the first time because he was asked, about the op-ed piece he wrote for the New York Times. It was about 2 weeks after the infamous debate that Joe Biden did with Donald Trump, where obviously the world saw what I'd been writing about for 2 years, which is, unfortunately, Joe Biden is now having a form of senility and incapable of being president. And George Clooney, who'd been a long-time friend of Joe Biden, who'd received awards from Joe Biden, who'd hosted a fundraiser in Los Angeles literally about 10 days before the debate, in which he lauded Biden on stage as one of the greatest things since sliced bread. He then wrote an op-ed lacerating him, saying he cannot be the nominee going forward or the Democrats will lose. He's too old, it's sad, and blah, 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 blah. And he hadn't been asked about this until the Venice Film Festival. And he was asked, and people started clapping about the fact he'd been such a hero. And Clooney did this.
Really want to know what you think was the impact of the op-ed you wrote for the New York Times asking President Biden to step down, which he eventually did.
You know, I've actually never had to answer that question, so I suppose I'll do it here. The person who should be applauded is the president who did the most selfless thing that anybody's done since George Washington.
You know what's hilarious, Nadronic, about this is that there was nothing selfless about what Joe Biden did in standing down. He was told by Nancy Pelosi that we can do this the easy way or the hard way, was the exact quote that was reported. In other words, you're gone, sunshine, and we either do it easily where you stand aside, or we put the knives in your back like Julius Caesar. She was one of the stabbers. Clooney was Brutus, et tu, Georgie baby. And there he has the gall in front of the world to say, you know, all the applause should go to this heroic, selfless man for suddenly deciding he had to stand aside, like George Washington. Now, for historians watching, George Washington stood down after serving 2 terms. He was the first American president, the founding president of the United States. He served 2 terms, and he decided himself not to serve a third. Thought it'd be good for democracy not to, even though he would have won quite comfortably. That was the situation for George Washington. Joe Biden was forced out of his second potential term before he could even start it by a bunch of Democrats led by George Clooney and Nancy Pelosi and others because they knew he couldn't win. So completely different. So the comparison was absurd. But I'm really focused here, Nadronic, as you're a movie guy, to see a movie superstar like George Clooney being so breathtakingly hypocritical. The guy who literally plunged the metaphorical knife into Biden's back, suddenly wanting us to think he was, you know, this was a selfless, wonderful act and he's the new Washington. Did it make you as sick as it did me?
Yes, and I like to call them adult pretenders because that's what they are. They're professional adult pretenders, and I agree with Quentin Tarantino. George Clooney is not a movie star. I don't think he's putting any butts in any seats, but he definitely has influence as a celebrity, and it shows you how friends are in Hollywood and Washington, which are essentially the same place, and it's just as scripted. They're not friends at all. And for him to come out and run the party line that was probably written for him, because I doubt George thought of that on his own, to say that, oh, he did the most selfless thing by stepping down, and now we're saying everything like he's old and tired and practically as we've had a zombie for our presidency as a president for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And those of us who were saying it were demonized, but now it's totally okay to say it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on this year, by the way.
It's been utterly breathtaking. Esther, this is where I have a real problem, right? If George Clooney just owned it, if he just said, you know what, actually, my personal relationship with Joe Biden was not as important for me as the future of democracy in the United States, and the party and winning the election was more important to me. If he said that, I would really respect him. I actually think he was right, by the way, in what he wrote in his op-ed. Where I think I find it stomach churning is to now play this whole Joe Biden was the greatest president of Washington. Yeah. And he selflessly fell on his sword. No, he didn't.
I mean, I think we need to start making a mental note of people like George Clooney, because I don't think for a second that he didn't know about Joe Biden's senility. I think everyone that was around him, everyone that was in his circle knew that this man was going gaga and decided to play along until it became so surprising that for some reason the leader of the free world can hardly tie his own shoes. So I think we need to make a mental note, but also we need to remember that celebrities, I don't know why we pedestalize them. When you have the DNC sort of
I hate that we put celebrities on a pedestal. Absolutely insane. I swear to God. We are putting we're putting streamers, we're putting YouTubers, we're putting all these people on like a pedestal. Like they're so amazing. They're like, oh my God, you're in all of these people. It's like, seriously. The best they have is just they're rich. Uh, fame, I guess, but it's like they're nothing. They're just people. For your entertainment, fine, but putting them like, their word is so amazing. You need to listen because these people are flawed. That's the problem I see, where because we put these flawed people on a pedestal, and it's like then you see them doing a whole lot of BS. It's just tiring.
Event where they're like, you have the Oprahs and all these celebrities thinking, yes, we are going to coronate the next leader because we know so much. You have to remember, celebrities don't live the same lives as the rest of us. They don't pay the same taxes. They don't have the same worries. They don't know the average sort of worries of a normal person. So we need to stop treating these people like mini deities. George Clooney doesn't know anything about anything. He just sits there and starts to sermonize about things that really are completely.
Well, look, to be fair, I'll bring critical drinker in a moment. To be fair to Clooney, I've known him a long time. He does have things he cares passionately about. Sudan is one of them. I've interviewed him about that with his dad, who's a journalist. He's definitely very committed with that. He's been very committed to a number of causes. But critical drinker, the problem here is it's not really even George Clooney wanting to pontificate. He's a big Democrat donor. He held a fundraiser and so on. People know his politics. It's the hypocrisy of it all. It's the fact that he's now trying to be the big cheerleader for the guy he's literally just assassinated.
I think it's all about presenting a unified front. And if he was to sit there and rubbish Joe Biden and say, like, hey, should we check in on him, make sure he knows that he's even dropped out of the race at this point, it's gonna create a bad look. And so it all has to be this unified wall of positivity that they put out to the world. Yes, Joe did the selfless thing. Give him a round of applause, and now let's put all of our support behind the next candidate before they drop out, or we decide someone better needs to replace her. That's all it is. It's presenting that positivity towards the world.
What was great was at the DNC, you saw them all carrying "I Love Joe" banners. Quickly on music, we're just going to wrap it up, but we're talking about Oasis, who are getting back together after a very long, very...
Yeah. Okay. I don't really care about that. I just want to check that video out. Oh. I have it. I wanted to check it out.
Thanks for having us and doing this. I know there's a lot of interest in this. First, let me start with you, Elon. What are the budgetary savings goals, and how much do you think you've achieved so far?
Our goal is to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion. So from a nominal deficit of $2 trillion to try to cut the deficit in half to $1 trillion. Or looked at it in total federal spending to drop the federal spending from $7 trillion to $6 trillion. We want to reduce the spending by eliminating waste and fraud, reduce the spending by 15%, which seems really quite achievable. The government is not efficient, and there's a lot of waste and fraud. So we feel confident that a 15% reduction can be done without affecting any of the critical government services.
I'm going to talk to all the guys.
Making it better.
I'm going to talk to all the guys here about the specifics. But for you, what's the most astonishing thing you found out in this process?
The sheer amount of waste and fraud in the government. It is astonishing. It's mind-blowing. We routinely encounter wastes of $1 billion or more, casually. For example, like the simple survey that was literally 10-question survey that you could do with SurveyMonkey, cost you about $10,000. The government was being charged almost $1 billion for that.
For just the survey?
$1 billion for a simple online survey. Do you like the national park? And then there appeared to be no feedback loop for what would be done with that survey. So the survey would just go into nothing. It was like insane.
You technically are a special government employee, and you're supposed to be
100. This is the thing. I've yet to see an article or report that really show. I mean, maybe there is. I just haven't seen it. Where these journalists actually debunk any of these things. I've not seen it. I've not seen anyone really debunk any of these, supposed. Who knows? I don't believe anybody 100%. But these, talks about all these fraud, all these, wasted spending. I've seen no journalists who are criticizing Elon, yet they have yet to see any proof of him lying, or of any kind of reports that none of the things he said is true. So, this is a thing where why aren't we should be supporting this man who is actually clearly trying to help us, help the country.
130 days. Are you going to continue past that, or do you think that's what you're going to do? Or?
Well, I think we will have accomplished most of the work required to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion within that time frame.
So in that time frame, 130 days. And the process is a report at some point, at 100 days? Or?
Not really a report. We are cutting the waste and fraud in real time. So every day that passes, our goal is to reduce the waste and fraud by $4 billion a day, every day, 7 days a week. And so far, we are succeeding.
And I'm going to talk to the specifics, but there obviously are Doge critics who are reading all kinds of stuff. Obviously, lawmakers on the other side of the aisle are attacking you. They characterize the approach as this: fire, ready, and then aim. And how do you approach that? How do you respond to that?
Well, I do agree that we actually want to be careful in the cuts. So we want to measure twice, if not thrice, and cut once. Actually, that is our approach. They may characterize it as shooting from the hip, but it is anything but that. Which is not to say that we don't make mistakes. If we were to approach this with the standard of making no mistakes at all, that would be like saying someone in baseball's got to bat 1,000. That's impossible. So when we do make mistakes, we correct them quickly, and we move on.
Some people say this shouldn't take a rocket scientist. Steve Davis, you are a rocket scientist.
You used to be.
Yeah, and now essentially you're the chief operating officer of Doge, day-to-day operations. Fair to say?
Yeah, part of the Doge team.
So how did you end up here? What's the biggest challenge you see?
The reason I'm here, which is probably for many, is that I think the goal is incredibly inspiring. I think most of the taxpayers in the country would agree that in order to have the country going bankrupt would be a very bad thing, and therefore the country going not bankrupt is a good thing. That all of us are willing to kind of put our lives on hold in order to do. I think the thing that's special right now is we actually believe there's a chance to succeed. That there's an administration that's supportive and a great cabinet and just a great group that will actually make success a possible outcome. And I think that's, given the inspiring mission and given the non-zero chance of success, it was worth doing.
I'd just like to sort of re-emphasize that point. The success of Doge is only possible with President Trump and with the outstanding cabinet that he selected. It would be impossible without the support of the president and the cabinet.
But you're finding the money. I mean, it's big numbers, right?
Yeah, like Elon said, the minimum impulse bid is often $1 billion. So for example, the $830 million, which was the online survey, that's an enormous amount of money. That wouldn't have been found if the Doge team wasn't working with it, in that case, the Department of Interior. But then taking it one step further, Doge then publishes these things on our website for maximum transparency. So now the general public, it would have been impossible for the general public to have seen that. Now anyone can just log into doge.gov anytime and see these payments. As they're not yet in real time, they're close, but they'll probably be in real time within the next few weeks.
But the process, it still involves Congress, right? At some level?
We try to keep Congress as informed as possible, but the law does say that money needs to be spent correctly. It should not be spent fraudulently or wastefully. It's not contrary to Congress to avoid waste and fraud. It is consistent with the law and consistent with Congress. And we've seen actually great support, at least from the Republican side of the House, and occasionally some Democrats too. It's nice to see people cross the aisle once in a while, but usually when they attack Doge, they never attack any of the specifics. So they'll say what we're doing is somehow unconstitutional or illegal or whatever. We're like,
yes, they don't really attack anything specifically. They're here to say that, they're corrupt. Honestly, they consistently only attack Elon, which is, I think it's a shame. This man is doing what I'm seeing amazing. Like, I've grown up. And we have always complained. People have always complained that they believe the government is corrupt. The government is corrupt. They're taking our tax money, and who knows what they're doing with it? Who knows what they're doing with it? We have been saying that since I was a kid. We have been complaining that the government is corrupt. And now we're having someone actually audit, actually trying to see how corrupt, if we're corrupt, where's our money going to? And we're complaining about it is absolutely insane to me. I think it's really sad what these leftist, insane Democrats are doing to Elon. I really do. It's just ridiculous. It really is. Because, again, we have been complaining that our government is misusing our money. We've been complaining about being taxed, and yet where's our money going? We've been complaining about that, and yet it's happening now. And that's not good enough. It's like, really?
Well, which line of the cost savings do you disagree with? And they can't point to any. And we list them all on Doge.gov and the Doge handle on X. And you'll see just outrageous things, one outrageous thing after another.
Joe Gabbia, besides Elon, you're one of several billionaires here, co-founder of Airbnb, and you wanted to help out.
I bumped into Anthony and Elon probably back in February, and they told me something about a mine that was dealt with retirement, and they said they needed somebody to help out to fix retirement in the government. I love the challenge, so I jumped on board, and it turns out there is actually a mine in Pennsylvania that houses every paper document for the retirement process in the government. Now picture this. This giant cave has 22,000 filing cabinets, stacked 10 high to house 400 million pieces of paper. It's a process that started in the 1950s and largely hasn't changed in the last 70 years. And so as he dug into it, we found retirement cases that had so much paper, they had to fit it on a shipping pallet. So the process takes many months, and we're going to make it just many days.
Will it be digitized, or how?
Absolutely. So this will be an online digital process that will take just a few days at most. And I really think, you know, it's an injustice to civil servants who are subjected to these processes that are older than the age of half the people watching your show tonight. So we really believe that the government can have an Apple Store-like experience, beautifully designed, great user experience, modern systems.
Because right now it's by hand.
Yes, the retirement process is all by paper, literally with people carrying paper in manila envelopes into this gigantic mine.
So they can't retire more than a certain number every month?
Yes.
About 8,000 a month.
That's how the reason we discovered it was we were saying, like, well, let's encourage voluntary retirement. They said, well, the most they could do is 8,000 a month. And even under normal circumstances, it can take 6 to 9 months just to have your retirement paperwork processed. And they often get the calculations wrong. So we're like, well, why would it take so long to retire? And they're like, well, because of the mine. And you're like, what do you mean a mine? What's a mine got to do with retiring? And that's where we discovered that all the retirement stuff is still done by paper in a process that looks identical to what occurred in the 1950s. Like, we took a snapshot of the mine when it first started in the 50s to today, it looks the same.
It's amazing. So how long do you think it'll take to turn over?
We're working as fast as we can. Probably next couple of months we'll have this overhauled. And, you know, I really think, again, like, why are we subjecting our federal workers to processes that they actually have to go through a training just to retire from the government? There's a whole training program that people have to go through in order to retire. I think we can do better for them.
Aram Moghadassi, Doge engineer. You go into these places, one of the more than a dozen engineers, first people to go into the agencies and view the computer data sets. Tell me what you're finding, and for people who don't understand how that process works, explain it for them.
Yeah, I'll say the first thing that got me really excited about Doge was learning basically the state of government computers. By some estimates, government IT costs about $100 billion. And it's funding systems that are over 50 years old, in the case of something like Social Security or the IRS. So really critical systems are old. They cost a lot of money to maintain, and they can be the efforts to improve them are often very delayed. So I thought I'm a software engineer that maybe can make a difference here, and that's really what inspired me at a high level.
There's a lot of mystery about Social Security and a lot of words about it from, here's what Democrats have been saying about it.
It's absurd that Elon Musk is trying to eliminate billions of dollars from Social Security.
Elon Musk and President Trump have set their sights on cutting Social Security.
Their goal is clear: destroy Social Security from within.
You're in the building. I mean, you're in the computers. What's happening there? What are you doing?
Yeah, it doesn't line up with my experience on the ground. And I'll say the two improvements that we're trying to make to Social Security are helping people that legitimately get benefits, protecting them from fraud that they experience every day on a routine basis, and also make the experience better. And I'll give you one example is at Social Security, one of the first things we learned is that they get phone calls every day of people trying to change direct deposit information. So when you want to change your bank account, you can call Social Security. We learned 40% of the phone calls that they get are from fraudsters.
40%?
That's right. Almost half.
Yes, and they steal people's Social Security is what happens. Is they call in, they say they claim to be a retiree, then they convince the Social Security person on the phone to change where the money's flowing. It actually goes to some fraudster. This is happening all day, every day. And then somebody doesn't receive their Social Security. It's because of all the fraud loopholes in the Social Security system.
How do you reassure people that what you all are doing is not going to affect their benefits?
No, in fact, what we're doing will help their benefits. Legitimate people, as a result of the work of Doge, will receive more Social Security, not less. I want to emphasize that. As a result of the work of Doge, legitimate recipients of Social Security will receive more money, not less money.
All right.
I want to emphasize that point and let the record show that I said this, and it will be proven out to be true. let's check back on this in the future.
So Washington Post, the Social Security Administration website crashed 4 times in 10 days this month because the servers were overloaded, blocking millions of retirees and disabled veterans from logging into their online accounts. Freaked people out. Is that going to change?
Yes, we're going to make sure that the website stays online.
Yeah, I mean, but is it a result of going in there or something you're doing?
No. The amount of issues that were the Social Security system are enormous. As an example, there are over 15 million people that are over the age of 120 that are marked as alive in the Social Security system.
And that's an accurate figure.
Yes. Correct.
15 million.
Correct. This has been something that's been identified as a problem, again, pre-existing problems, since 2008 at least, from an IG report. So there were some great people working at the Social Security Administration that found this, 2008, and nothing was done. And so 15 to 20 million Social Security numbers that were clearly fraudulent were floating around that can be used only for bad intentions. There'd be no way to use those for good intentions. And so one of the things the Doge team is doing is carefully and very methodically looking at those and making sure that any fraudulent ones are eliminated.
Brad Smith, working at HHS, and obviously another element is Medicare and Medicaid, NIH. What are you finding?
Yeah, well, I'd say there's a couple things we're really committed to in our work at HHS. Number one, making sure we continue to have the best biomedical research in the world. And number two, making sure, which President Trump has said over and over again, that we 100% protect Medicare and Medicaid. But there's a lot of opportunity. So if I take NIH as an example.
I gotta admit, out of everything right now that has come out of Trump, I think the whole Doge thing I like the most, personally. I think the Doge thing I like the most because I have always, like I was saying, I've always believed that the government was corrupt or that they misuse our tax money. I've always believed that when I was I don't know, a teen or whatever. When not even any kind of thought I had about a government, that's what I was thinking. That they just they tax us and they misuse our tax money. They launder it or they just put it, it's like just a whole lot of BS. So for me personally, right now, what I'm hearing or what I know personally, I'm not saying I know a lot about it. I'm just saying what I see right now, Doge is the best thing that's come out of Trump's presidency for myself. Just the idea, because it's not like it's affecting me or anything, but it's just the idea. Like I said, I've always hated how corrupt I believe the government was. How they would tax its people and misuse tax money. So hearing this, for me, it's the best thing.
Today, if you're an NIH researcher and you get a $100 grant at your university, today you get to spend 60 of that and your university spends 40 of that. The policy that we're proposing to make is that you get to spend 85 of that and your university spends 15. So that's more money going directly to the scientists who are discovering new cures. Another example at NIH is today they have 27 different centers. They got created over time by Congress and they're typically by disease state or body system. There's 700 different IT systems today at NIH.
700 different IT systems.
IT software systems. They can't speak to each other.
So they don't talk to one another.
They have 27 different CIOs. And so when you think about making great medical discoveries, you have to connect the data.
Time out. You said 27 different chief information officers?
Correct.
And most of them are non-technical.
So there's a lot there.
There's a lot of opportunity. It will make science better, not worse.
And when I say that our job is tech support, I really mean it. Yeah. We have to fix the computers. If the computers can't talk to each other, you can't get research done. If the computers can't stay online, people won't receive their Social Security. So what we have here are a bunch of failing computer systems that are preventing people from receiving their benefits, that are preventing people from preventing research from happening, that are extremely vulnerable to fraud, and we're fixing it.
This is why I hate how a lot of people are nowadays. Elon, his company is suffering for him helping the American people. Really, he's losing money for helping the American people. It's beyond me. It's really beyond me. This man, surface level, I don't know what's going to happen behind the scenes. Maybe something is happening behind the scenes, but surface level, he's not benefiting for helping the American people. He's not benefiting. He's not. So it's just like, I really liked him as the head. I really liked him as the figurehead of Doge because of his mindset, because of his just how he goes about things. Because this man is an amazing man. So it's a shame. It's a shame that he knows that he has to get as much as he can done with the help that he promised, so he can get out of this, because him being the face of Doge and being part of Trump's presidency has hurt him a lot. So it's sad.
And does that include AI? Does that include kind of changing the system overall? That's, I guess, what people are afraid of, is they don't know what this is all looking like, and is it going to affect me in the long term?
It's going to affect them. It's going to affect people very positively. So the changes that we're doing here will ensure the solvency of the American government, of the United States of America. This is what we're trying to do, is ensure that people do receive their benefits in the future. And you can only receive your benefits if the country is operating in a healthy and competent way.
Up next, how the Doge team plans to streamline some federal jobs and agencies. And later, Elon Musk answers some of your questions.
There's a lot of money sloshing around. There's a lot of money sloshing out the door. And if you look at the federal government and the way the workforce works, it's really a one-way ratchet over decades. So
it's only going up.
It's only going up. You never take it away. So that leaves you with duplicative functions, it leaves you with overstaffing, and it leaves you with functions in the wrong places. So a couple of examples. Duplicative functions. Brad mentioned 27 CIOs. If you kept going with Brad, he would talk about the communications office. I think you've got 40 distinct communications offices in HHS, right? Yeah.
40?
Yeah, and that's not unusual, by the way. Multiple offices like that.
It's not making anyone healthy.
This is not about the employees there. There's many hardworking, well-meaning people who took these jobs. These jobs were out there. They applied for them. They took them. They're doing what's there. It's just that they're duplicating the effort of 40 offices. So you've got that. You've got overstaffing. A good example of overstaffing would be the IRS has got 1,400 people who are dedicated to provisioning laptops and cell phones. So if you join the IRS, you get a laptop and a cell phone, you're provisioned. So if each of those IRS officers or employees provisioned 2 employees per day, you could provision the entire IRS in a little more than a month. So 12 times a year, you can re-provision.
Why would you have 1,400 people whose only job it is to give out a laptop and a phone?
Right. The whole IRS could be handled once a month. So that doesn't make any sense. And President Trump's been very clear. It's scalpel, not hatchet, and that's the way it's getting done. And then once those decisions are made, there's a very heavy focus on being generous, being caring, being compassionate, and treating everyone with dignity and respect. And if you look at how people have started to leave the government, it is largely through voluntary means. There's voluntary early retirement, there's voluntary separation payments. We put in place deferred resignation, the 8-month severance program. So there's a very heavy bias towards programs that are long dated, that are generous, that allow people to exit and go and get a new job in the private sector. And you've heard a lot of news about rifts, about people getting fired. At this moment in time, less than 0.15, not 1.5, less than 0.15 of the federal workforce has actually been given a RIF notice.
So they're selected if they're leaving.
It is
basically almost no one's gotten fired. That's what we're saying.
Tom Krause, working at Treasury, you are having access to the payment system, oversees all the outgoing payments. Essentially, those payments were going places we didn't know where they were going, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case, Brett. As an ex-CFO of a big public tech company, really what we're doing is we're applying public company standards to the federal government. And it is alarming how the financial operations and financial management is set up today. There is actually really only one bank account that's used to disperse all monies that go out of the federal government.
Talking about one bank account.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
It's a big one. A couple weeks ago, it had $800 billion in it, but it's the Treasury General account. So when you hear, some of my colleagues here, what they're talking about in terms of the fraud, you have to ask, well, why is this allowed to happen at a financial level? Well, it's actually quite simple but alarming. The Treasury, up until now, and thanks to President Trump, we're fixing this. In fact, there's an executive order that he just signed the other day, which is protecting America's bank account, because it really is the taxpayers' money. One, we're changing the culture. The culture is been not a lot of caring and not a lot of commitment to doing what's right relative to financial operations. There's $500 billion of fraud every year. There's hundreds of billions of dollars of improper payments, and we can't pass an audit. The consolidated financial report is produced by Treasury, and we cannot pass it on. We have material weaknesses. What that means is that if I was a public company CFO, I would effectively be removed. I couldn't file financial statements. I couldn't issue securities, which of course we depend on. Can't pass an audit.
Right. The federal government cannot pass an audit. It's impossible. In fact, in order to pass an audit, you need the information necessary to pass an audit. You need to have the payment codes, you need to have the payment explanation, and you need to have a person you can contact to understand why that payment was made. None of those things were mandatory. Until just recently, just a few weeks ago. In fact, maybe last week?
Yeah, we're serving 580 plus agencies. And up until very recently, effectively they could say make the payment and Treasury just sent it out as fast as possible. No verification. And so what we're doing is what any household would do. But imagine you're a household, you have a bank account, everyone has an ATM card connected to that account. Everyone has a checkbook connected to that account. It's not just your children. It's not just your parents. It's your in-laws. It's your extended family. And they all can go to the account and disperse funds. No questions asked. No justification. No verification.
Up next, the Doge team targets government contracts, and we'll show you what they're finding. Tyler Hassan, Interior Department, you're a former oil company CEO. You're reviewing contracts before they're approved for funding. What are you finding?
Well, Elon and Steve kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but I actually found that customer service survey contract. I actually have an example of one right here. I could have done this in high school. And
Is that right?
I found it.
Is that bad?
I found it on the weekends because under the Biden administration, there was no departmental oversight within the Department of Interior whatsoever. None. We are now reviewing every single contract, every single grant, and when things come to my attention that don't make sense, I'm bringing them to Secretary Burgum, and he has been fantastic. He's a businessman. He's very supportive of Doge. It's been wonderful to work with him.
Is the battle between government of decades and decades of buildup and business, which you guys are, is that like a train hitting each other? I mean, it seems like it's pretty disruptive.
Well, this is a revolution, and I think it might be the biggest revolution in government since the original revolution. But at the end of the day, America is going to be in much better shape. America will be solvent. The critical programs that people depend upon will work, and it's going to be a fantastic future. But are we going to get a lot of complaints along the way? Absolutely. You know, one of the things I learned at PayPal was who complains.
This is the thing. I've yet to see he truly done anything that's harmful. They said, oh, they're cutting Medicaid. They're cutting. No, they're not. Not a single thing has been cut. Not a single benefit has been cut. It's just really disappointing. I mean, the American people, like sometimes, so many people are so stupid. And they believe in the fear mongering. They believe in the fake propaganda. Really, just so annoying.
The loudest and with the most amount of fake righteous indignation, the fraudsters. It's a tell. These NGOs that are crazy, like the $2 billion to Stacey Abrams' NGO that basically didn't exist and suddenly gets $2 billion awarded from the federal government. She has why? And there are many such cases like that.
I think that most people, common sense-wise, would say the fraud's got to end. Yeah. They're concerned about the 94-year-old mother who skips a check or somehow doesn't get what she's supposed to get.
Right. And what we're trying to say is actually that the 94-year-old grandmother is actually, as a result of Doge's work, going to get her check. She's not going to be robbed by fraudsters like she's getting robbed today. And the solvency of the federal government will ensure that she continues to receive those Social Security checks, that Medicare continues to work, without which we're all doomed. The reason we're doing this is because if we don't do it, America's going to go insolvent. We're going to go bankrupt. And nobody's going to get anything.
Why are you guys all doing it? I mean, you can pipe up, but you don't have to be here, right? I mean, you don't have to be doing this.
I have blessed with 4 beautiful children, my wife and I. But we have a real fiscal crisis, and this is not sustainable. And what's worse, back to my children and everyone else's children, is we are burdening them with that debt. And it's only going to grow.
Steve, there's not a lot of hierarchy here. You guys are kind of all approaching it in different, silos, but with the same kind of goal, right? I mean, this is really Silicon Valley private sector colliding with government.
Yeah, exactly. And we're headed in a bad path, but then the chance of success exists. And just the one that just is in my head right now, which is a fairly mundane one, but I think is very illustrative, is credit cards. There are in the federal government around 4.6 million credit cards for around 2.3 to 2.4 million employees. This doesn't make sense.
Right.
And so one of the things all of the teams have worked on is we've worked with the agencies and said, do you need all of these credit cards? Are they being used? Can you tell us physically where they are?
I hope they're getting frequent flyers.
Actually, on a different note, the rewards program the federal government has is actually not very good. That's a whole other...
It's a negotiation.
Right, yeah, exactly. But so far, the teams have worked together, and they've reduced it from 4.6 million to 4.3 million. So
we're taking it easy. But clearly, there should not be, more. There should not be more credit cards than there are people. Yeah.
Joe, middle-level employees, are they seeing a benefit to being empowered by taking out bureaucracy? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, I think what you're seeing is taking the best of Silicon Valley in the business world and bringing it into the government. We're bringing the best practices and the best methodologies, and people are inspired, right? Especially on the retirement process, which I can speak to. They've been trying to modernize and get off of paper since early 2000s, very unsuccessfully. Every attempt has gone over budget and been canceled because it hasn't been successful. And so, you know, I showed up and I feel like I'm here because it's an interesting problem. We can use design to solve it and good engineering and really create a better experience for everybody.
We're talking about elementary financial controls that are necessary for any company to function. So, like, if the federal government, if a commercial company operated the way the federal government does, then it would be immediately go bankrupt. It would be delisted. The officers would be arrested. The changes we're putting in place will enable the federal government to pass an audit. It will enable taxpayers to know where the money is going and know that their hard-earned tax dollars are being spent well. The ways that the government is defrauded is that the computer systems don't talk to each other. So if the computer systems don't talk to each other, then you can exploit that gap, and fraudsters exploit that gap.
It's sometimes weird that why do we have companies that have the best technology yet our government doesn't? Why is our government slow when there's companies that run light speed instance? What? Why isn't your computer system, your system of operating, top tier? It's like nothing better. It's like it should be like, God, that's ridiculous.
Take advantage. For example, there were over $300 million of small business administration loans that has been given out to people under the age of 11.
Well, actually, to add to it, it's $300 million under the age of 11 and over $300 million to over the age of 120.
Definitely.
Small business loans.
Correct.
Yes. The oldest American is 114. So it's safe to say if their age is 115 or above, they're fake. Or they should be in the Guinness Book of World Records. And we should not be giving out loans to babies. So the youngest recipient of a small business administration loan is a 9-month-old, which is a very, very precocious baby we're talking about here. So obviously it was just fraudulent. And they do terrible things. They actually will see that a kid's been born. They will steal that kid's social security number and then take out a loan and leave that kid with a bad credit rating. There was literally a baby. The terrible things are being done is what we're saying.
And how
we're stopping these terrible things.
And you can stop it? I mean,
we are stopping it.
The reason this is happening is because the two systems are not talking to each other.
Yes.
Right? And so you don't know at the Small Business Administration that you're giving a loan to a 9-month-old, which happened in one case, because you're not cross-referencing that with the Social Security Administration data that has birth dates. So that very, very simple fix eliminates tremendous fraud. And that there are multiple systems across the government where the systems are not speaking with one another. And if you just solve that simple problem, you would solve a huge amount of fraud.
Are you surprised? So one of the ways that, like one of the key tricks that the fraudsters pull is that they will use the fact that someone is marked as live, and as sort of just that social security number is marked as live in Social Security, and then get disability and unemployment insurance for a dead person. Because the databases don't talk to each other, all they got was from Social Security is like, is this person alive? Yes, they're not alive. It's falsely marked. Person is falsely marked as alive in Social Security, but they didn't. But that person, a fraudster can now get unemployment and disability from a dead person. This is happening all the time at scale.
Are you surprised at some of the legal efforts and some of the judges that have weighed in? There's about 8 or 10 now of these cases that are at least temporary holds. They're being challenged by the DOJ.
Right.
Are you surprised by that pushback?
Well, the D.C. Circuit is notorious for having a very far-left bias. And when you look at the people close to some of these judges, where are they working? Oh, they're working at these NGOs. Oh, they're the ones getting this money. Does that seem like a system that lacks corruption? It sounds like corruption to me.
Last thing, do you guys all see this as a patriotic duty? I mean, is that really what this is about?
It's essential.
I do, 100%. I was running 5 businesses in Houston, and I left that. I left great people to do this, and my wonderful wife said, go for it. And here I am, but I feel like this is me giving back to the country.
If we don't do this, we're sunk. The ship, unless this exercise is successful, the ship of America will sink. That's why we're doing it.
Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate the time.
I don't know. I have truly yet. I've yet to hear a bad thing about Doge. I have yet to hear a bad thing about Doge. Really, they're saying, "Oh, they're cutting Social Security." Prove it. Prove it. They haven't. Oh, they're cutting Medicaid. Prove it. They haven't. I mean, I've not seen it. I've not seen actual reports of it. I mean, it's like, and this is the thing where, again, Doge, they're just pointing out, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong. What I'm hearing, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is that all they're doing is pointing out the fraud, the corruption. That's it. It's up to the government to do that shit. It's up to the actual people that are, these men are businessmen, top tier businessmen helping out Doge, top tier engineers helping out Doge, helping out the government. They find the information and then they just tell actual government workers, here, do what you got to do to it. Right? Do what you got to do. It's like, I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous. I think this is the whole, the leftists, feminists, woke, crazy people that we have nowadays. It's really insane. It's really tiring. I don't know. Yeah. But I wanted to check that out. I thought it was an interesting video, just to hear more about it. So, but yeah, I think that's it for tonight. I just wanted to check out those two videos because they're all on the docket. I wanted to watch them. Figured why not watch it together? So, if you guys like it, cool. If you hope you guys like hope you guys check out the other videos.